Good morning. We start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga. From the heart of the Savior of 100 deities of Tushita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clam of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient Losandrapa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for my mind of faith, please abide for 100 yons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Pleasing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, lice, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the eight worldly concerns. Savior, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect, pure, holy gurus, from the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of Dharmakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losandrapa's teachings to shine forever. Sajil Purki Chuji Meto Travrida Blinji Nidegempadi Sangejindo Miteu Idrokunanda Shinla Chupasho. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losandrapa, who had a morality of eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and their imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Now we recite 5-line Miksema 3 times. Mikme tsewe tenchen chen rezi, drime gempe wampo jampel yang, tupo malu jonze sawedak, ganchen kepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandrape shabla sowade. Mikme tsewe tenchen chen rezi, drime gempe wampo jampel yang, Dupo malu jonze sawedak, ganchen kepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandrape shabla sowade. Mikme tsewe tenchen chen rezi, drime gempe wampo jampelyang, dupo malu jonze sawedak, ganchen kepe tsungen tsongkapa, Lo sandrape shabla sowade. And a prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings. Through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in a glory for fortunate disciples.
Sangye Chodang Tsoji Chonum La Changchu Pardu Dani Gyapsun Chi Dagi Jinso Jibin Chonum Dralam Penshe Sangye Drubar Sho Sangye Chodang Tsoji Chonum La Changchu Pardu Dani Gyapsun Chi Dagi Chushi Jiban Dagi Dralam Penshe Sangye Drubar Sho Sangye Chedong Tsogin Chonum La Changchu Pardu Dani Kyabsun Dagi Chushi Yebang Dagi Dwalam Bench Sanjin Drubar Sho Kangi Tuzini Zone Dawa Tamje Bambi Cher Tambi Chun Denze Kwadam Dela Changze Lo Namo laye ke na lo dan jing ke chubon da na mi ke no dan ro kun ji dan nam chizong ba tham ji ke du da gi chu den do. Good morning.
Sohbet ele kendine. Yanki sohbet ele.
Kene kun zabim be.
Dedin atsabin, dedin atsabin.
Tanang anzo kyam ru sem ji chik. An den do asra sanji chu do choji chon la chanji par do dan kyab chi sla on di. Ta kyam ru ti sung yo asra kyam ru. Then Dagi Jinso Jivin Sono Jindralan Page Sanjin Drupal shows and it's same Gabas. The number Sanjivi Chugit that Sun Dorduna, the Ditol Lego Yoris Ra.
Right, good morning, everyone. So today we started, as we always do, with some prayers. And the final one we recited together was the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. So we recited it in Tibetan, Sagi Chodan Soki Chonam La. The meaning, though, in English of the first two lines is, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. So this is in these two lines, one goes for refuge because the meaning of refuge is presented here. Then the third and fourth line, by the merits I've created through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Or in other versions, by the merits I've created through generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So the third and fourth line presents the meaning of bodhicitta. So here in this one verse, this one remarkable verse, the entire meaning of the teachings of the Buddha are included, both refuge and bodhicitta. That's what.
Tadina Samloj Tambayana Kamdro Ra Sanju Gendu Sumdi and the Kabchosagi, Kabyuldi, and the Sanju Gendu Sumdi Chagores, the Kabyul Rela, and the Tama Semgi Tamadelaya, and his Drola page Sanjin Drupal shows, Sanjin Druvia, Tobja Diang, and the Rata Nambi Chu Chinging, Kanza Tsugi, Tobja Tartubadi, Sanji Combaters. Cap Tartubadian, Cap Josaki, Cap Yulta, Unisosolaya, Pa Cap Jovana, Tsu Gyomindi, Zodi, Sanjit Chagores. Then the Sanjit Kitchen Chig Chagadosra, Sanjit Kitchen Chig Chagores. Then he Kitchen Chig di Drola Pembicherdos, Drola Pembicherdos, Sanjit Toba Chigging Slandi, and Droa and Sumjin. Right. The kanji isumjan tamje di sanji che nyamslengela ya shindu ni kechi mores. Norduna and then debu sanji kombantiya shindu kechi morela. Nyam tagbi sumjin tiya and then sanji che chengela ya shindu ni kechi mochagores. Ra.
Bin ik konten nyamtak sena? Nyamtak?
Nyam tagbata kyu sumjin kyu to so.
The first two lines, as mentioned, present refuge. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. Refuge, or the word this word that we translate as refuge, also means protection. So one goes for refuge or for protecting refuge to three objects. These are the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, and the Sangha, the highly realized practitioners. So these are those to whom one turns to for protection. And amongst them, the Buddha is, of course, of supreme importance. The Buddha is primarily who one relies on, because the Buddha is the teacher, the founder teacher of all the teachings of all the Dharma. Then the third and fourth line about bodhicitta, in particular, as is clear in the final line, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So this is of great importance. Here, one is setting one's goal, one's objective as a practitioner, that one has as one's goal to become a Buddha, but for a specific purpose, in order to benefit all sentient beings. Or perhaps in your translation, you have more literally, all migrators. And a key part to take from this is this term, all sentient beings, or all migrators. These refer to all suffering beings, beings who are subjected to the pains and misery of samsara. So within this verse, we have The first two lines about refuge, and the third and fourth line about bodhicitta. And within those first two lines, a key point is the Buddha, in who one turns to for protecting refuge. And in the third and fourth lines on bodhicitta, what's of key importance is there that one's objective is to aid, to help all suffering beings. That's all.
There Rada number Sanji church chinging. Tinani that take what be church chinging in by na. Then needs to dignity ra Simjingi Nyamtabi Simjing Nedan Tedan. And it can say Yundin Kundingi Toja Tartu Sanji Kuma Imbudi Nibordusta and it's Semla Shago Gores. Kaduinata and a Lutan Moronach. And it's Semni Tormoronach. Hakura Semni and Kaduin and Yagoyadi Nyamtabi Sumjing Netsu Tedan. Kyun Kunse Yundin Kundingi Sanji Kumba Imbudi the Kaduina Semla Shago Gores. Tembi Shago Gores.
Buddhist practitioners can be divided into different types, but looking at those of the Mahayana inclination, for them, it's imperative to have at the forefront of their mind at all times the wish to, or the concern for beings who are suffering, beings who are in pain and misery. And as well as, that's the first aspect, the second aspect is in order to be of great benefit for them, I must attain enlightenment so that I can be of great benefit to them. So it's these two key components, the concern for suffering sentient beings, and secondly, to become enlightened in order to help them. Those two key components must always, at all times, be foremost in the mind of a practitioner, Buddhist practitioner of the Mahayana persuasion. That should never, that motivation should never degenerate, should never even decline. That's all.
Tilda, Simjin Chik, like Chik, Nyamtabi Simjin Chik, and Le Tangbayna, Tangoni Chik, Tevachimbi, which Yamlin Ching in Jimbana, then the Chanjusim, Domba Young in Jimbana, and Suzu Yamlin di Trolla Drogiores. Domba delay New Yores. New Yores,
Someone who really is a Mahayana practitioner, someone who actually has the Bodhisattva vows on their continuum, should they abandon or turn their back on a single suffering sentient being, that will harm their Bodhisattva vows, because it will harm their motivation. That's all.
Tadi Nanzu Le Tangbo Laya, Kalikabu Yorosra, Kansananganzu Samlaya, and in other country Samlaya, and Numun singing the Yovanza, Marikba Yore, Dacha Yore, any Shadan Yore, Chagdo Yore, and Dansam Yodigi, and then Dansam Kisagi, Yuldi, Magawachia, Le Tanyati, and then Lela Shujin Legorosra. That di any susu control sasagi yuldi be any control lamsan sayata any control se on the control sasagi yodelia touch be any never chair mato pendoko samlo zao in meval soba dindi yungyoro dizo da any ripa dimnero that subs chin be any soba gongore se shuji the number sanji vishonlia shu sobo gongya di shuji kichenbu imbadi ani zudi susu nyamlen ya tuguyores ra ani nganzu tobja tarduba sanji komba tobgo yanza sanji komba tobalaya gyu pige ani tsewa ninji chenbo sede medumorwares tsewa ninji chenbo yongyalaya ji kontro dan dindilaya ani sobaji gomatuna 아니 컨트롤 기사가 일디 아니 르타야기 닝가 쇼지 요반자 어다 어디리 차가 버렸어 Dindi pe ta rigpa dim some tang ko sa ne sulta mamu shochi yung do asra.
For us beginners, it is really difficult to never turn one's back on anyone, to hold all suffering beings first and foremost in our heart. And the reason it's so difficult for us as beginners is because afflictions arise so often, so easily. Afflictions such as ignorance, attachment, anger, jealousy, competitiveness, these arise with such ease, such regularity. And with afflictions such as these, they always have an object, someone they direct it towards, and that it comes with a flavor of varying degrees of strength, of dislike, of repelling, of pushing away. And therefore, it's very easy as beginners, because of these afflictions, to turn our back on someone, to not care for someone. For example, when one is angry at someone, one is not in those moments thinking of how can I benefit this person? Because one's angry at them. One has thoughts of strong dislike for that person. And that is completely contradictory to how can I benefit this person? So therefore, a practitioner needs to develop skill in their practice of patience in order to take care of their own mind and ensure that the afflictions aren't allowed to arise with sufficient strength to overwhelm and dominate one. Because for an actual practitioner of the Mahayana, their great compassion must never be allowed to degenerate. And without a stable practice of patience, and always being mindful of or being aware of one's own mind, aware of the potential for the rise of afflictions and guarding against that, then it's always the possibility that anger can arise, and that anger will be directed towards someone. And that means one will have a negative attitude towards them. And this then will harm one's great compassion and thereby harm one's commitment to caring for each and every sentient being without exception equally. That's all.
Teda nganzu zo di kontro di ra kontro sambati gi ta randa shen igalya one nungi di kontro sambati res son yores ra ani kontro sambati nganzu kontro sagor da ra kontro sagyor ina ya ngunne samlo tamba na ani 피 다 뉴제티 시글레온디 치소소라야 가서다 네바 친구 제고문다라 네바 직 소수긴 네바 막 소수긴 네바 메교로다 직 소수기 아니 로라 마바바이나 아니 람상 콘로 사야지 이거도 아스라 소수 로라 마바바 디기 아니 간주 샘디다 촉로고다 샘디베 뉴제기 이 촉슬라란다 겐케나고라 뉴제 테슬레바나 람상 간주 샘바 초체니 아니 콘드리 샤완디 큐드레 차고라스로 데다 더 소버곰 세디 뉴시기 이 만초와 체디 아니 직 소수군 데바 마바비기 직 남규지 통와는 람상 이 촉드와나 데디 소버곰 마토과레스 디기 이 만초와치 비기 수수 데바 마바비기 남규지 레바 있나야 아니 수수 로디 베 tempo deto che giano tadi sobinyam ne isares
Amongst our afflictions, anger is an incredibly destructive mind. It harms ourselves by its mere presence, and it harms others, certainly in terms of our attitude towards them. And then if that attitude is expressed, then harm is directed towards others. So therefore, as committed practitioners, it's imperative that one takes care of one's own mind to ensure that the afflictions are not allowed to arise. And if they do, that they're not allowed to dominate. Because it's in particular with anger, by its mere arisal, our peace of mind is destroyed, and we are harmed in this way. So the role that patience plays is that by taking care of our mind, when we experience an affliction such as anger arising, recognizing the way we recognize the arisal of the affliction, perhaps through recognizing how we are now perceiving someone, that we are perceiving them in a negative light, not in a loving or tender light, but rather in a negative light. And this way we experience, become aware of the arisal of anger. There we need to rely on, call up our patience. And patience then serves to dispel that anger and serves rather to ensure that our mind stays undisturbed by an affliction, and we rather let that affliction go. So therefore, what patience does is it prevents the arisal of the affliction and allows the mind to stay stably. And if the affliction does arise, quickly it can be dispelled so that one's patience is not lost. So patience, this mental attitude of patience, is a mind that stays undisturbed by afflictions in the face of any adversity, whether it comes from what others say or do or our own inner turmoil. A mind of patience is a mind that stays undisturbed in the face of adversity. That's all.
Tirdada, ra, manzu kondru samba jebadang, kondru jebadang, sul nigores lavana, sosul niguyawadi jachi jatama redos, kondru jebadang, manzu majiba chagados ra. Samba majiba chagre, and dongin namgir shodro uyare, dongin namgir kenza tendro gora, ah, kapkala tanganzu zemuzigara. When shogi ya lang that any ya chilol drawer that any suzy that dombato search and any kasichala kasi consum be resig to hang out the yamardina that is also chuchin any leondi then conroj sevana any jacha gadam zokpa shun tongres dombadi and danji in rosonta any chuya tuzatan sama trolla tanshak to sir. And control somebody, this social nuisance.
The arisal of anger, who does it harm? Well, very clearly, it harms oneself. Whosever mind is disturbed by anger, they themselves are harmed. Their mind immediately becomes unhappy, perhaps just mildly annoyed, or perhaps totally lost in rage. And not only is one's mind hurt, but this gets expressed, in the very least, on one's facial expression. So it's obviously very common in the world. We all get up in the morning, we wash our face and so forth. And before we are facing others, heading out into the world for the day, we dress and present ourselves. And various people have different beauty regimes. Some will comb their hair or wash it and blow dry it. Others will use makeup and ornaments such as earrings and so forth. So people have their own beauty regime. But when they go out into the world and anger overwhelms them, their beauty regime cannot hide their anger. In fact, their beauty regime cannot serve its purpose because now anger is dominant and the face is no longer attractive at all. That's all.
Any samba givuji yobana, and gemuge ragors, gemuge yobana, and peshe dombala ke machuwa in the amizos and the Yahoo Congress, Mansia. Ah, penang answer to that answer Tawari, Jidan Yomar, that Chinjungun and Tawazur, Mizikorala, and G. Cake is Sonyomar, Dombala
That is
Soja. Dombala kind so manuals, penang answer to in the Domba, the Domba.
Ale Hakason.
Ineko Mixigi, Gangasiki, Yomari, Pigi, Susu, and that 사상스키 요마리 부구푸투 요마리 그 테스트 페자장 디 somlatang tan dimadowe semnale semdesiki medi kadina gemugen roheragido asra meduzi beshi ani sorbushun tongu yumaresra ninjigo mantone ya sorbu tongu mares kanzana sem dini ko karso da tiyomaros semdedo da tiyomaros ra.
It really is like this. That and the contrary is also the case. That if one's mind is stable in being happy and relaxed, people enjoy being around you. And so, in talking from my own personal experience, myself and those in my monastery, we tend to ordain at a young age. So we don't have experience of beautifying ourselves, preparing our hair and this kind of thing before going out. Our role in the monastery is to study and to focus on our studies and reflect well on the meaning, and then to help out in our community and so forth. So we made no effort at beautifying ourselves in any way, but nevertheless, our mind was open and relaxed, and this is shown in how we present ourselves to others. Because if the mind is open and relaxed, this is how we are when around others too. That's all.
대 친구자디 담미 참아 게르디 단동에 뭐 차로라서라 아주 춘중고라 배는 가로이나 아니 대스니주 여서레서가 니 간준 때 김지요라 김지 아니 김지도 저가 캐로서 부기 춘중가라 부기니지도 슬라신 캐로서
When I was young, well, very young, and I was still living with my family, and I was told that when I was born, I was actually a very attractive baby.
미산도 김지도 캐로서가 캐런 콘스 캐로래라서라 내가 때스 첨부더지 로트드 예고 텐디차디 더 심진 초로라 무즈가라 더 베베 아니 게모게교로지 라고다 스마일링 도지 라고 나 가드나 게모로지 겐 데고서라 그 콘즈가라 민거라 아니 게모게교 라고
When I was a little older, say from 6 to 9 years old, I was known as really a very happy child, always smiling and joking and playing, and just really having a very pleasant disposition, always happy. And I got a nickname as being like the smiling boy because of my disposition.
어딘지로지 간지 그 게모게라나 게모게라나 수이나 가우치거다 샘딘이다 샘딘이 게모게라티 아니 미사모 가우치기레스 디 용야라 지 펜섬 로지 셴람 펜비 삼바 지여봐나 게모게 딩고서레스 영아 야부인 세고 말든가 nga drogba sumjin chogro sumjin riganla ni ani ta lockdown ani chi yala soba ni ta mangbu shu yorada mesangala pe gyani getin yora anganzu sumjin chogro di mikhashi gi 부 카시기로 소수 심진디 대진 메시안바기 김지기 심진디 리간로 yana 아니 미따로 치고요 말아 아니 나 가드는 참마 아니 나 난기 심진인데 메시안바기 뛰는 참마 아니 ཉ냠도 딱이야
네, 걔랑 남균 낭라 요래 낭기 셈천다 남들 걔랑 리라 남균 드로마송 낭라 대송에 디
난기 심진선 리라 난주 난기 심진
알레
메시안바기 심진 니 참을로 디치기였어 이 가스나 당이 난주 김지기 심진디 샤는 나란주 심진지고 말 팅들레나지 나랑 못 사줘도 아니
Gonna karigi kolangotsa?
제
Karigi kolangotsa. Karigi kola.
당한주 남 김지죠라 김 먼저 내박이 아니 신진딩이 막 책망나 나랑나랑 못 사기로지 지 인제로 제발 나 춘에 되우메스 더 딩가 춘중고네 디에서로
If one's mind is happy and relaxed, then naturally humor will come to one's mind. One will easily joke around, one will smile readily, one will laugh readily, and people will enjoy being in your company. And therefore, if one has a wish to benefit others, I think this happy disposition comes about very easily. And because one will want others to be happy. And when they're laughing with you, they clearly relaxed and smiling in your company, this will bring joy to one's mind. So I think it's just an expression of wanting others to be happy. So as you know, as I've told you many times before, I grew up in a nomadic community, and there our primary function is, or primary work is caring for our animals. And one has a nomad center of many yaks and sheep and so forth. So one can be, when one is out maybe in the pastures, caring for one's animals, one may be completely alone and spend each day alone just caring for one's animals. And when I needed to care for the animals of my family, I would want to go to our neighbor's place, and because I like to be with people and not to be separated from them. So I had the responsibility to care for animals, my family's animals, but I also wanted to go and chat with our neighbors and be warm and close with them as well. That's all, Ken.
디지디 간주 김지다 지 도서 참마게 ngalap gawo chigres I binge omajora kodes chig kola gawo chig mare smes je dininga ya thasal yong ro seral yong seragomba yong dia nganzde jibo dozo de pe chambuyes 가서 nganzde jibo su nyamde nganzo chig cholol ro wa na ro chig sagan ro chadong chikala ngala pecha jiona ngi lamsan chigiyes ro asena cheche nga 단 더블이나 가와이나 이 세나균이 지금이스 이 소수 제샤나 기브도스라 매 샴바지기 제발에 소수 제샤나 기브도스 두 신은 로데디 미참마 가오치기도 하스라 더블레나 감미 저베 야구치기도 하스라 야 가연지요 삼바 남다기 소수 삼바 남다기 같이 온디 아니 미츠 아니 가오당 창부치기도 하스라
When I was living at home, I have to say I had really a good relationship with my neighbors. I like them, they like me. And not everyone in my family had that kind of relationship. Some just didn't want anything to do with the neighbors. But this disposition of mine continued when I moved to India and entered my studies, in that I had really close and warm relationships with everyone in my class. We all got on very, very well. I had a close relationship with everyone. We would have tea together. When you had a bit of money, we'd eat together. And in fact, whenever I had a little bit of money, I would readily share it with others. And we'd take them out and we'd have something to eat and so forth. I never really had the thought that I need to keep my money for myself and be in a sense, be miserly, keeping the money for myself. Rather, I took pleasure not in building up a small pile of rupees, but rather sharing it with others and bringing joy to others. This was, for me, what brought me much more happiness, was bringing happiness to others, rather than counting my little pile of rupees. That's all.
테르다 tinza 간지 소바테스 곰 서라 당한지 니마 딱바 제드레셨다 소바테스 곰도 봐나 소바테스 곰도 봐나 아니 펜섬 딜레고사레스 미션라야 펜비 삼바티 레고사레 미션라 펜비 삼바디 레바나 디기 소슬레 펜게도 왔어라 무슨 소슬레 펜거다 미션라 펜섬 기바나 아니 원내 소슬레 펜거 소슬레 펜거레스 미션라 뇌섬 기바나 무수 소술 니고레스 야샤 야다 말이스 로 딘자 콩주 somebody 까고야지 아니 난저 대원 대바다 동한 문제 응인지라야 다 개첨부 쇼지 차고르스 들어 개첨부 쇼지 차고르다
You meditate every day a little bit on patience, cultivating your habituation with it, with this mind. There'll be such great benefit to you and to others, this for sure. Because when others are having a bit of a tough time, maybe talk to you in a way otherwise you dislike, or act around you in a way you dislike, your mind will stay undisturbed, because this is the mind of patience. It's a mind that stays undisturbed in all circumstances, in the face of any adversity. And therefore, you will help ease the troubled mind of others. And this will benefit you. People will like you. They'll want to be in your company. They'll take pleasure being around you. They will have confidence that being with you, that they will be safe. Their mind, any agitation will not be added to, but will fade away. Whereas on the other hand, if one merely has malice in one's heart, doesn't express it, but just holds it in mind, it arises negative thoughts towards others. Just if this arises, your peace of mind is destroyed. This is 100% certain, that merely having malice in your heart, even if it's only for a short while, for that period, you are unhappy. And all beings, ourselves and others, want to be happy, want to be free of problems and difficulties. And if one's mind is patient, you are happy. You are free of problems and difficulties. And others too, in your presence, their problems and difficulties will not be added to, but will rather ease and dissipate. So patience is a remarkable mind for helping yourself and others to abide in happiness. That's all.
그래 닌자 지 소주기 밀라야 지 펜토야기 고급로지 여봐나 펜도 제고 그랬어 펜도 진으로 지 수지 라야기 레오 마치버지 펜도 제샤와나 야차자다마다 디기 소소레 펜그레스 이 콜롱디 갈지 펜나 삼비 콜롱디 케나 얀 디그마르다스라 in Nordovers, Kanji Susu Tachi Yorata, Miji Tuondi, Midi Karalan Dibuyanari, Menari, Medela Monichi, Pena Suzuki Chalaroja, at the Medela, Moni di do some Jeshawana, Jeshawana, the Susu Shu Pengres. Kazi Pendoche to the Pendochin Roshawana. He, the money. 인사레스 오늘 최대 인사레스 아주 가주스 셰바이네야 가주스 장바이네야 랑랭 마타르나 아니 최대 차금도 왔으라 최대 남다 차금도 최 남다디 가르스나 신의 팬도셔야 돼. 팬 가르토요나야 아니 잡아봐 가는 게 팬토거나 잡아봐 간째 가르째 두고야 말이네. 아니 쟤는 로샤바나 the thing only is
when one develops the Dharma within one's heart, one will seek out or be observant for opportunities that come one's way to be of benefit to others, and one then will embrace those opportunities. This is an excellent sign of the Dharma arising within. And certainly this should be done with the motivation of, through these activities, am I benefiting others? This should be the motivation. As far as possible, free of self-interest. What am I getting in return? So this needs to be a guide. This needs to be a guide. Because the truth of the matter is, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, by benefiting others, you in turn receive benefit within. And the more one benefits others, the more benefit within you receive. And in fact, there's really helping others, helping ease their suffering, helping benefit others. This is the very meaning of the Dharma, very meaning of the Buddha's teachings. Hearing teaching, studying teaching is important, but this is how you put it into practice, using these qualities that you built within yourself through your Buddhist teachings to help others, to ease their suffering, bring them happiness. That's all.
다 맨날 학동도 직 자화당 좀만도 진바나 라 다 망치지 다 춘중권에 자화당 안에 수행이 진바나 아니 다 되고 배열었어 소설라 직 오늘 직다 사상 인사회제라 착신지 매나 직
Satsang?
사상
Satsang. Changsagyab.
창사자
Satsang. Zanda. There.
소설이야
Go.
사다 요교인 바이나 다 델라직 착신으로 좀 마시나 아니 욕라도 왔어라 교가디 소수기 아니 사다델라 착신매나 코니 주보셔야 년가요라 당안주 자와진 바이나 착신 고고 말했어 착신매나 기회여서 착신 여는 욕라랬어 다 자와디 메세디 욕라랬어 착신매나 다 비기월 다 참은 찍었다 쳐버렸어 다 자상 창사자 보기 자위제라 소수 교감 예매되다 보고들 직 착신으로 주면은 참은 찍버치기서는 요도 차이로 와서라 마도 난도 착신이 바직 빵도 와이나 원니 기우였어레스
Really, from what I've observed, those who have the great fortune to ordain at a young age, they tend to have very happy and relaxed minds. Because what one does see is that later in life, those who have a partner, who are in a relationship and have a partner, they tend to have a lot more arguments, a lot more conflict. For ordained people, we of course don't have partners, so therefore that's source from which one enters into so many arguments and conflict. This one just does not have, and this thereby enables the ordained person to relate to people on an equal footing, to not be partial or biased towards some or place the needs of some before those of others, but to rather relate to all equally. And this means one can much more easily have harmonious relationships with others. When one has when one has a partner, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, girlfriend, there it's a source it's a real obstacle to treating everyone in an equal manner, because one's partners tend to have the expectation that they should be treated and seen as someone special, as placed first and foremost. And if one person is being placed first and foremost, it's difficult then to relate to everyone in the same manner, and thereby dividing one person from others. This is where problems start to come. Then when later, if one has children, then it's very difficult. It really is impossible to have the attitude of treating everyone the same, because of the strong expectation that not only should your partner be treated first and foremost, but of course your children should be. So therefore, not having a partner, not needing to be in a relationship in that way, really can help one live in a much easier life by treating others with equality, or in an equal manner, rather, in an equal manner, not having a partial attitude. That's all. Okay,
can take chat. 대인바이나야 데니 베나다 지 사상라 착신 고그리 사상 경고로 와서라 이내야 사상라 착신 제바이나야 지 양리카시 지 가사 칼라야 지 착바기 대도지 소수 사상 상마인바 다도 좀 먹어야 된다스 그라 Tzu muguya, the tzu kayagi tapshi teletini, and gaining domba said, tzu tintigredo, kimbi domba, kimba chok, domba tele, gaining domba slaundi, and chick loyum la soba, and pambi, domba diobaina, teni chakshen the yon drog dosra. Chakshen katsuki yon drog, tizugi, and suzu mesenalaya, and devach digi ragores. Certainly,
if one's in a relationship, it's imperative to act respectfully towards the partner that you have committed to, in that one should not look around with attachment and desire. This really should be avoided. Rather, in this regard, one's focus should solely be on one's partner. This is really important, because by having one's attachment or desire directed elsewhere, this will cause conflict. And here, if one is living within the confines of the vows of the non-ordained, the lay vows, there's one specifically about sexual misconduct. So this, by living within such confines, living and doing so sincerely with ease, this helps one's relationship be more harmonious and prevents the arisal of strong conflict. That's all.
착신기 로디기 수수기 샘디 가서 다지 촉직 마동 통 마통에 소리지 차르고 도서라 아니 촉직 모두 따 마통이 아니 착신의 매나 아니 촉탐전에 봤다 통에 아니 샘 깨서야지 아니 참만 통토야 로지 디렌도 하서라 참만 통토야디 아니 촉직 줍대바이나 착신기 간주 샘드 드브도 왔다. 갑드도 왔다. 아니 간주 샘드 까응엠이면 참만 통투 거래스. 그러 데리다. 아니 참만 통투 봐나. 데니 데니 샘드 고향 붙여 그래스. 그러 간주 샘 고수도 붙여야 돼. 샘 고수도 붙여. 기부 모용야디 내좀 토마토 반자. 내루 토마토 왕기 샘버드 부수도 붙여 거래스. 데니 나살 얘기도 왔어.
Just to make sure this is clear, what I encourage you to do is to try and develop an impartial attitude. The exception, of course, is in the minds of desire. There one should stay within the confines of one's relationship. But in other ways, if in all other regards, if one can develop an impartial attitude, one's mind will be much happier, because a partial attitude is a closed mind where one is seeing one's a specific group or individual as foremost. That immediately makes one closed towards others. And particularly if one is a committed practitioner wanting to develop bodhicitta, this mind of enlightenment, is directed towards all equally. Its very foundation is impartiality or equanimity. Its very foundation is this. The mind of bodhicitta, it's deep and sincere love and compassion for all beings without exception. And if one is able to develop an outlook, which would be an impartial outlook, which is based on seeing the value in each and every being, that each and every being has not only value, but equal value, an equal wish for happiness and right for happiness, right to happiness, equal wish to be freed of suffering and right to be freed of suffering, thereby valuing everyone's attainment of happiness and freedom from suffering equally. Having such an attitude, one's mind is broad and spacious, because when it's directed towards all beings like this, to everyone like this, one moves through the world with a very broad and spacious mind. With such an attitude, problems and difficulties do not overwhelm one. On the other hand, when one's mind is partial, biased, focused on or valuing some more than others, then one's mind is closed, narrow. Then one gets unhappy. Then one gets easily enraged. Then one experiences illness and the like. That's all.
그래서 생라 공부하는 거나 나도 샘라 신하기도 하서 망제라 남라 기거라서 님이 공부하는 거나 생라 조나시 남라 기 말아서 가르레스 라와나 생라 통구면서 남라 기거라서 님이 통구여반서 대zam가 남라 연구여 말아서 들다.
If you think of going for a walk alone, either in the day or at night, we know in general, with really very few exceptions, one tends to be much more relaxed in the day than if you're walking in that same place in the dark. Why? Because in the dark you cannot see, and therefore fear arises. One's mind is tense. One's on edge. Whereas if one's walking in the day, one can see clearly, and therefore one's more confident, and one's mind is more relaxed. That's all.
대장안도 샘 보수도 차야디 아니 내루 통 마트비 왕기 되니 내루 만통 왕기 되니 아니 착바기야라 소바 아니 공로기야 연구요레스 디 왕기 아니 샘 보수도 차고레스 야자기야 담아 차고레스 로
Through not understanding how things really are, through not understanding how things really are, one's mind becomes closed, narrowed by that ignorance. And from this, attachment will arise and anger will arise. This is the sequence from not understanding how things really are, the reality of situations. One's mind will be closed and tight, and thereby attachment, anger, and so forth arise. That's all.
딘자 다 착당기 로 로다 뉴몽기 로 고야기 님부 쪼디 내룩 통위기 로드 차고레스 내룩 통위기 로 깨발야 내룩 하고 그러스 난저 란다 그 내룩 하고 두고 매완자 내룩 땡인기 템바 산지 좀 된들야 겹쳤니 아니 두스체바나 콩기 땡샤베 내룩디 난저 통투고 그래스 텔 템비 나란수 주지 아니 뉴몬디 가기어라스 탑직데레스 탑직디 착당 고야기 체도 아니 닌지기 삼바키야 라 닌지키에슬라운디 피기 데버다 동할 문데버 치규 임비기 무유 네수죠라스라 디삼로다니 디삼로다운디 란다 신 케버메바 닌다 촉보다 드라기 케버메바 탐질로 데버다 동할 문데버 치규 임바 딘디 삼로다운디 아니 닌지키 투야기 균센지 레고레스 딘지 균센 돈 닌지키 온디 야자자다마 착생 글로디 고로고레스
This is an important point to really reflect on. It's through not knowing how things are in reality, not knowing how things exist in reality, through this ignorance of knowing, not through the ignorance that does not know how things exist in reality, our afflictions such as attachment and anger arise. When we recognize this, clearly we'll want to then come to understand how things exist in reality, so that we can eradicate the cause from which all our afflictions and thereby suffering comes. And how do we come to know how things exist in reality? Through relying on the Buddha, the founder teacher, the being to whom we turn for protecting refuge, because he is the being who has come to discover how things exist in reality and taught that, guiding others in how to cultivate that self-same view that he has attained. So this is when we want the first point here is that one comes to recognize that it's from not understanding how things abide in reality that all our afflictions come. We want to seek out how things do exist in reality. And there we turn to the Buddha. This is the second point. There we turn to the Buddha. This is our mind of refuge. because through relying on the Buddha, we will come to understand how things exist in reality, and therefore cut the sequence that leads to the arisal of our afflictions. So that's the second point, that of refuge. The third point here is that through coming to coming to understand how things abide or exist in reality, this aids the generation of genuine compassion. Because when you come to understand how things exist in reality, this applies to everything that exists, including the understanding that all beings are equal at a fundamental level. All differences that we perceive are superficial. At a fundamental level, every being is the same. This is true. This is how beings are in reality. And how are beings the same? In desiring to be freed of suffering and to abide in lasting, stable happiness. This is the how all beings are. And this understanding is in accordance with reality. That then, in turn, leads to valuing others, seeing others equally in terms of desiring them to be freed of suffering and its causes, and to abide in lasting happiness through cultivating its causes. And here, with this understanding of reality, this is a truly impartial attitude, not valuing the happiness of some over the happiness of others, but all equally. This then is how understanding reality aids the generation of genuine compassion. So that's then the third key point. That's what I'm
tirda tananganzo sanji jomden digi kuji kunda de hakora chen sama hakora sira sanji jomden dida ani nyamshak pigi ta gom gyamni shubi namba yores ku kunda da sobda di gom gyamni ani gom gyamni shugor de ne ya mi chen de tsum yo mares dustin shu yo mares ra ani chen che yor de ne ya pa dus pa sigi yo mares korangi dus chen ra ani susugi 다 미기 파마디 미 첸데디 갈 따고르슨 수수 샘라 따고레스 따사 라 아니 수수 샘기 난기 아니 뉴무 디디 슈크첸도 잠반인지 잔주고선 슈크첸도 텔라스기제니 뉴무 슈크체기 여바나 디마까 아니 잠인지 잔주고 샘라 소바 슈크총고 여바 니야 공팔다 두신 아니 상무단이 슈기어 와스 디 곰레스 다 곰갸야 디레스라 다 곰갸야 오네 디레샤스라
You all of you here know what the statue, the visual representation of Buddha Shakyamuni looks like. If you look at his face, his face is depicted of a meditator. You'll notice his eyes are not closed, but they partially open. And moreover, you notice he's not looking around the room, but he's looking downwards. The example that he's setting here is that of a meditator. And the reason why, and so what we should take from this is, what is the Buddha in this depiction looking at? He's not looking around, absorbing the world around him. He's focused on his own mind. He's focused on his own mind. And why, and what is he focusing on his own mind? So this is what we should take from this then, is that we need to focus on our own mind to ensure that, firstly, our afflictions are not present. Or if we notice they're starting to arise, to eradicate them. Secondly, that wholesome minds, these are being developed and are present. Minds such as love, compassion, or even bodhicitta, and certainly our wisdom understanding reality. These we need to have present at all times, not the afflictions. And by the Buddha showing this expression of meditation, looking downward, we know the focus needs to be on our own mind. And as meditators, this is what we should be focusing on at all times, being ever present of our own inner world, our own minds, ensuring the afflictions are at least suppressed, eventually destroyed, and our minds rather are dominated by love, compassion, bodhicitta, and wisdom understanding reality. This, as meditators, is what we need to strive to develop. That's okay.
Tadi nenga shur chagores raka. Suzuki semla tatubayna semgi göndu tontugres. Suzuki semgi göndu tonbayna di meba soyagi tabiores. Di Suzuki meba sotugres ra. Di tab di Suzuki ani gyab tamba la gyab jiwanza tele gyab jiwa gyamjuk shiwayna tab di keranla dengres. Aha. Di kerangi semgi göndu meba sotugres. 펜도요. 다 미싱기 견 때바이나. 계란기 미싱기 견 체가 들어바이나. 디 계란라야 누그레스. 계란 누그레스 디. 로. 그래서나 계란기 다 미싱기 다 지. 근데 소수 사상로질이 견 때바이나. 견 때바이나. 아니 제발라로도 왔어. 제발 슈총으로 왔어. 미 간다질이 견 때바이나 간주기 아니 닌지 삼바드 라그로 그래스. 잠비 이동의 로디 라그로 그래스. 디 라바이나 가르리 그래스나 컨트롤 레그레 어머나 셰단 레그레 어머나 뇌섬 레그레스. 디 소소 네고르스라. 미신라 가리요나 요메나미 미신 견 마데나 약슈레스. 미신기 연된 따투바이나 디기 소소 샘라야 미텔라 제비기 제월레토 그래스. 다 디레도 다 원에 디레샤스라.
Key point here to make is when you are observing your mind and you see faults, you certainly should be seeing faults. You'll see undesirable aspects of your personality. Seeing this, you need to recognize that this is excellent, that you're becoming aware of these faults. Secondly, remind yourself there is no undesirable aspect of your personality that you yourself cannot eliminate. Every undesirable aspect of your personality, no matter how strong your habituation to it is, you can reduce and eradicate. How do you know this? Yeah, think of the objects of our refuge. The Buddha himself has done that so, and through his teachings in the Dharma, he's presented the complete and unmistaken method by which to do so. So therefore, we know that by observing our faults, we now have the opportunity to apply methods or techniques to eradicate those faults. So therefore, seeing faults in oneself is beneficial. What goes along with this advice, though, is seeing faults in others, or rather, dwelling on the faults of others. This only harms us. This only harms us. So first, let's say, when you see faults in yourself, don't dwell on your faults, rather apply the antidotes. When you see faults in others, definitely do not dwell on them, because that too will only harm you. Rather, think of their good qualities, because this will serve for your own good qualities to arise. So for example, if you think of faults in your partner, this will harm your loving care for them, your tender attitude that you had perhaps earlier in the relationship. This is harmed by dwelling on their faults. When their faults appear to your mind, rather put them to one side and remind yourself of their many good qualities. By reminding yourself of their many good qualities, this will keep your heart open to them and help nurture your loving and affectionate relationship. So therefore, when you see faults in yourself, don't dwell on them. Apply the antidotes. When you see faults in others, don't dwell on them. Rather, remind yourself of their good qualities. That's okay.
Terdada di tang 심죽 칭인 짐배 나라 단 잠블리 나노라야 다 깨다 시시지 땜바 산지 좀 된디 페브라스 산지 좀 된디게 아니 심장 탐질라 아니 닌지 곰쇼스 장바 곰쇼스 이용 로 곰쇼스 디송고도 이용
Sumpa?
예동
Yidunga, Yingdunga.
예동와 곰쇼스 디송고도 겐타쇼 싸인 송문다 겐 요마리 송요마르다 겐타쇼스 송요마르스 겐타 고레스 송요마르스 겐 마타스 라 다가나시행기 산지 좀 된디기 다 진주기 아니 랍친기 깨우다 빼는 공부를 아리안 되었다고 아니 반덴 다와 잡아 야스치 뭐 시와라 소바 참말로 다가란 송거도 하더라 콘조 시우 랍친기 빼 남주 풀도 좋은 이어딩인기 아니 미견냐로 콘조 참하게 디송거도 제롱부지 장관놈 zon가 바쳔보 오늘 탄에 쌈기 메켜봐 산기 응었다고 지 패버렸어 콩기 뒤께 앉았던 거다 쓰라 띵난서 니 니엔토 와는 자세자도 망한솔레 펜사레 쓰라
You think of every Buddhist teaching you've received, whether you're reading a sutra from the Buddha or having those presented to you, you'll never ever come across advice to focus or to dwell on faults. Rather, the teachings will always be about topics such as how to generate a genuine loving attitude towards all beings, genuine compassion towards all beings, how to develop thereby a pleasant outlook, and how to understand reality. Never once will you have heard advice about dwelling on faults. Similarly, the teachings of the great Indian masters such as Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Shantideva, and so forth, always those teachings are focused on how to develop qualities within oneself so as to overcome faults. Never once do they advise, dwell on your faults. Think about bad things of yourself or of others. Never. And the great Lama Tsongkhapa, who is really no different from the Buddha in terms of qualities, in all his teachings, he teaches how to develop good qualities so as to overcome faults. Never once, to any of these great masters, encourage their students to dwell on their own faults or the faults of others, but rather to cultivate good qualities within so as to overcome faults. That's all.
그래서 난 탈드나라 섬진라 미비 닌지 공발라 때니 아니 섬진 그 동할 세위 쳐도 아니 디 탑신지 말로 땡땡이 산기 공방 디 아니 톱본디비 로끼인 거레스 텔레데니 산기 공방 톱인 거레스 산기인 거레스 아니 비기다 두지 감다 메바 쳇다와신도 아니 시치네 텔레 펜비기 아니 슈 디텐투고요레스 텔다로 당간주 디텐투고유 다 메팅간주 다 제바나 로좀된 디펜네 로니동 추기야스 조고레스 로니동 추기야 공라야 송샤주 최디 단단간주라 단다 송샤주로 지ren도스로 단다 송 나 케바지예요 말이스 남줄 원에 고응이전 단답배 아니 카즈 고두 고야 딘디지 쳐지 로니동 쪽이 건 송도 하더라. 디 가르된 것은 드진 감담에 봐 쳇다와 신도 신신 최대 여바디 다가랑 게 타시에 두고 그랬어.
The cultivation of compassion towards all beings is imperative so as to overcome all forms of suffering beings experience. So there's compassion for others, wanting them to be freed of suffering and its causes. This mind of compassion will lead to the determination that I have to become a Buddha, so that this aspiration of mine, my compassionate aspiration, I can ensure it is actualized. Because compassion is wanting all beings to be freed of suffering and its causes. And for beings to attain freedom from suffering and its causes, they need to be guided in how to develop the Dharma within. So therefore, a practitioner who develops genuine compassion will recognize they have to become a skilled teacher, a skilled guide, so as to help beings to develop the Dharma within and thereby gain freedom from suffering. So this mind of compassion, first, it's just a very strong wish, may others be freed of suffering. But that then gets developed into the determination that I will ensure that others attain freedom from suffering. And that then leads to, and to do so, I must become a Buddha, the most skilled of guides in teaching beings in the way that they are most receptive to how to gain freedom from their afflictions and develop good qualities within. So therefore, this mind of compassion will lead to enlightenment. And when one is enlightened, then one has perfect arrays of skills to help others in accordance with their own unique spiritual backgrounds and personalities. What we find is that since the Buddha Shakyamuni appeared in our world 2,600 years ago and taught the Dharma, taught the entire complete and unmistaken path to attain enlightenment, his teachings have existed in an unbroken lineage from then to now. And why? Because his teachings are suitable for beings, suitable for the wide variety of beings who can adopt them, cultivate them within, and thereby gain freedom. The Dharma teachings that you meet in this life are no different than the Dharma teachings that would have been met centuries ago or even millennia ago. And that is because these teachings are perfect for beings to overcome their afflictions and develop all good qualities. That's all, Ken. So thank you very much. Do you have some questions?
Hello, Venerable Doje.
Hello.
I was thinking with the Mahayana tradition, I would say, is that focus of helping all beings, right? So this prayer of refuge is only done in the Mahayana tradition because we have like that power of refuge and bodhicitta, or is something that is also done in different traditions?
This particular verse, right? This
Yes.
particular verse. Yeah.
Or how we say it, like they're both together.
Okay. Dini tekpa chenpo chikpo gonzo semchen sama sangitala tri ki kunlong yode. Dide, huh? Dini nato kyamjo jotang di. Kyabjo dang semki ni dang namdu kie ki jotang di. Di nato tek menpa. Dunmoma yimpa jotang yina. Di Nangpa Shempa, Nampa Chuluk Shempa, Pel Nget Super Jena, Tek Mempa, Dang Tek Chempa, Ini Rig Loka, Pergu Nangten Mengyo. Konso, Tikche Didang Drabo, Sangi Jordan Soki Chonana, Tikche Didang Drabo, Dunki Yena Mina, Deni Didang Drabo Sena, Kyamjo, Dang Semke, Ni Dang Namdu. Di Konki Trevata.
Chidang pe tekwa membigi pita nyentu da rangilgi ani lamlaya shuni susu chikbo pigi tarbalaya tsundingi kansa tsogi ani semdi kigiyo maris semgi chigiyo maris tanda sanji chudu soji chonomla se di tsikdi 조집반대 아디샤기 송레스. 로 조집반대 아디샤기 송레. 디체디게 페시 베나 단데 스리랑가라 소바 딘디라 나단 규메데이네야 가시 땡구 얘기를 삼거도스. 가서 조집반대 아디샤비 엔디카말라실라 세서들이야 페니 아니 tembi chawa gyachimbu na yorwas. Yimba inayam tegwa membigi chun bashik chedingi kansa tsogi ani di denguyo maresta di sivures.
Tek Chen Shempa. Di sung pempe. Danda, tek chen shempa di dung kiomare, di selpore.
take one member.
Tek menpa, tek menpa.
Huh.
Okay, goso, goso. Those of the Theravada tradition who have the heroes and solitary allies tradition, who are striving for their own individual liberation, for them, they do not generate bodhicitta, because to achieve their own goal of individual liberation, there is no need for bodhicitta to be generated. It's not presented for them. But I have a suspicion, but I don't know, but I have a suspicion. Oh, sorry, first. But this particular prayer that we recite at the start of the class, this was composed by Atisha, the great Indian master. So it is possible, I have a suspicion, I'm not sure, but I have a suspicion that possibly in Sri Lanka there are people who recite this prayer or express it like this. It's possible that in Sri Lanka this prayer is known because Atisha traveled to Sri Lanka, where his teacher Salingpa was. So it is quite possible there it's recited, but I don't know for sure. But other than that, in the Theravada tradition, having refuge and bodhicitta together, or this verse, this is not done.
이번에나 태부 체중 니가기 통문된 된데 겸루디 아니 산길에 겹쳐 줄에 겹쳐 겐들에 겹쳐 세디 디 니가 집어지게 하랬어. 개버요 말했어.
Yeah, tekmen tekchen dini.
니가 된 그랬어.
But the two divisions of practitioners of Buddhism, the Theravada and the Mahayana, they all go for refuge to the same three jewels: the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel.
Thank you.
Final Lamrim dedication. From my two types of merits, vasa space, that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a grand length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all life's Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be grounded boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtues practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.